everybody, welcome to The Glasses Push. My name is Chuck, and today we're talking about the book Wildwood by Colin Meloy. So, who should read this? Why should you care? First off, if you're a Decemberists fan, you're well familiar with frontman and main songwriter Colin Meloy's very anachronistic, hyper-literate style. You're familiar with their concept pieces like the Crane Wife Song Suite, The Tane, and The Hazards of Love, which are all very intriguing, emotional stories with kind of a folksy, classical underpinning to them. Out of any songwriter I know, Colin Meloy has one of the most vast lexicons I've ever encountered. His vocabulary is something to be both admired and feared. But, as a twist, he decided to go with the young adult fantasy genre. So just the idea of a more lighthearted tale, fueled by such an incredible wordsmith, had to check it out. So, what did I think? Well, I believe it would be an understatement to say that this is the least young adult book that I have ever encountered. The concept itself is very simple and very within the young adult genre. A couple young kids go on an adventure in a magical world where animals talk. But that's where the simplicity stops. Colin Meloy's vocabulary is being flexed at every possible moment, but all within context, so it's not alienating. While the world of talking animals is playful in a sense, there's a very political backstory to it. There are several different provinces with warring factions, groups with different ideological standpoints, and several different apparently justified heirs to the Wildwood realm. The book tackles the themes of family, friendship, loyalty, and then mixes in a parody of democracy, government, kind of bureaucracy in general. So there's a lot of different topics that are being juggled. It's very whimsical. And while certain characters are dynamic, they all kind of fit the same formula of certain people that think they're meek and powerless, being capable of really great things, which is a nice message, but a little lacking in complexity, especially considering how complex the underlying conflict of Wildwood is. And for a young adult book, there are some very propulsive action sequences, but for the most part, it is actually a very slow-paced book as the adventure progresses. There's some very clever foreshadowing. The way characters will weave in and out of the book is really fun. You're kind of juggling two different perspectives at once, and you're even given the idea that while there's one clear villain, there's a gray morality to all of the conflicting sides. So the writing was every bit as detailed and clever in terms of word choice, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a fun adventure. It was interesting, but it's a little more slow-paced. And while there is a tidy conclusion to the book, as tidy as that is, it's also incredibly obvious that it was set up for a sequel, and of course, there are two other books in the Wildwood series. So, what would I rate it? The actual craftsmanship of the writing is excellent. But the story, while there are some interesting components, doesn't flow as well as you would want a young adult book to flow. But again, I'm a 30-year-old man, and this is a book written for children. And in that sense, I applaud how this book is going to expose kids to a lot of very unique words, and it will expand their vocabulary. It'll expand the parents' vocabulary too. And for that, I'm going to say it's just right above average. We'll say we're gonna give this an 81. So where and when should you read this? You should read this right between a really simple book and a really complex book. Because the way it balances simpler character arcs and plotting, it makes up for in some deep political background and fascinating wordplay. So for that, it's going to be a good transition between your light books and your heavy books. And you're probably going to want to read this right next to a dictionary, because while context is given for a lot of the words, there's still a couple times you're going to be scratching your head. So that's what I thought, but what do you think if you've read it? Are you a fan of the Decemberists? Are you not a fan of the Decemberists but still read it? What did you think? And then I guess, is it even fair for an adult to review a young adult novel? And what's your favorite fancy word? Mine's penultimate, but I'm a really big fan of collecting new words, so I'd love to get some new words from you. But until then, I will give you the same old words. Thank you for watching. Keep on reading and keep on pushing. That was bad. I am going to leave it in still. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna leave it in. I may regret it. I'm gonna double down.